Hello and welcome to ERUPT, the home for how businesses can scale and transform. Throughout this podcast, we aim to inspire and educate to help you and your business thrive. Across the course of our episodes, we'll be interviewing industry leaders to uncover some of the challenges across the world of work. We aim to give an insight into some of the fastest growing organisations across HR and technology. Please follow us on our journey to erupt and elevate your business. This episode is from our ERUPT Learning and Talent Conference, which was hosted in September 2022. The conference focused on topics from developing emotional intelligence to creating a transparent future career. Sam Isaacson, who is Global Director of Consulting at CoachHub, hosted a fascinating session about how important curiosity is in business, and how the role of the growth mindset can play directly into this. He also discusses how the role of coaching can act as an enabler for employees to become more naturally curious. Sam also looked at how to scale that globally across multidisciplinary teams whilst making it sustainable. I hope you enjoy, and make sure you check out the GO ERUPT website for further content and for all videos on demand.
Hi everyone, my name's Sam Isaacson. Global Director of Consulting at CoachHub, and what that means is I work with a global team of behavioural scientists and learning experience designers to work within our business and with our clients to make sure that we're leading with an evidence base and we're doing things for good scientific reasons. My background is entirely in professional services, having built the coaching services offer for Grant Thornton. And also I'm the chair of the UK government's Coaching Professional Apprenticeship Trailblazer Group. And so I end up working with lots of different organizations around their coaching strategies. I also work with a number of the big coaching professional bodies, particularly around the use of technology in coaching, which leads me on to what does CoachHub do? We're probably the biggest provider of coaching globally. We work through a digital platform with more than 3,500 accredited coaches around the world, and our clients can access them using a digital platform by paying a monthly subscription, which allows them to access as many coaching sessions with live accredited coaches, as many as they like. So I'm here this morning to talk about curating curiosity and sparking a new way of thinking. So I'll start by just talking a little bit about curiosity and what's the key to making that happen, and then go on to talk about why coaching is a great way to unlock that, which I think makes sense given my role. Before moving on to thinking about how to scale that across bigger organizations, because that can be something that's good to think about. I'm sure that many of you will have come across this kind of model before. This comes from some work by Tosti and Jackson from about 20 years ago now, where they talked about how to deliver results within an organization. The challenge is we've got on the left-hand side the more, you probably call it left brain sort of activity, thinking about policies, procedures, processes, setting clear strategic goals, identifying which objectives are going to help us to achieve those, and then coming up with the daily activities that are going to contribute to achieving those objectives. Whereas on the right-hand side, we've got the softer side, the organizational culture, our values, just our daily practices and the behaviors that we try to encourage and the sort of thing that happens within our organization. And the truth is that even though when we bring in the big consultants to come and help us, we always operate on that left-hand side. You know, we need to bring some people in so that we can come up with a new set of documentation, some new processes, some new technology systems, some new cybersecurity or finance practices that's going to help us to achieve those results that we're aiming for. Actually, when we really ask leaders, what's the biggest problems in our organization? It's to do with internal conflict and silos and navigating the politics that happen within all organizations. And that's all of the stuff that sits on that right-hand side. And so it's not a question of having to prioritize one over the other. It's about thinking within our organizations, what's the thing that's going to make the biggest difference? And so when it comes to wanting to introduce more curiosity, wanting to increase innovation within an organization, wanting to get more psychological safety and increasing experimentation and acting in an entrepreneurial way, what's the solution to that? It surely isn't just coming up with a set of procedures that helps us to do that. And at the same time, it isn't just having the softer stuff around making people feel like they're able to play a little bit. We kind of need the combination of the two in order to achieve those results. Another model that I'm sure that you will have come across before many times, coming from Carol Dweck's work, is around growth mindset. And this kind of sits alongside that organizational alignment model. Again, on that left-hand side, we've got that fixed mindset. This is where policies and procedures and processes are meant to sit. Actually, when you look at the procedures that we have in most organizations, actually the way that they're designed is in order to protect the status quo. We want things to be protected against risk. We want to manage things within a certain level of quality. And we want people to be doing things that it is happening in a predictable, repeatable way, so that if we lose a person, we're able to replace them and it's not going to cost us too much. On that right-hand side, we've got that growth mindset. And this is a lot riskier. This is about wanting to learn and change and embracing challenge. And when something comes along that makes us have to question things, to be able to embrace that and change quickly and adapt things and be able to all operate in a new and different way, which is difficult when we want to protect the way that things are. And yet this is the space of curiosity. This is the space where people do start to think a little bit differently and coming up with new ideas and coming up with new ways of thinking. But the key to unlocking this comes in that word mindset. This isn't about policies and procedures. It's not about coming up with a way that we can, deliver a workshop and suddenly tick a box to say now everybody's become curious. We're having to change people's mindset. And that's a real challenge because mindset is difficult to change. You're just changing your mind about something isn't something that happens quickly or instantly. It's something that tends to take time or comes through a moment of deep personal insight, which is very difficult to manufacture. I was thinking about this just this morning as I was preparing for today. I was thinking I was in the supermarket a few months ago, and there was there was a mother and a daughter, grown-up daughter. She's probably in her 30s, and so the mum's in her 50s or 60s, and they're having a conversation while I was getting a box of tea bags, and there were two boxes of tea bags that they were looking at by the same brand. So, some major brand that had been around for many decades, and one of them was just in the normal box, and one of them was in like a retro style box to make it feel like you kind of gone back to the 50s or whatever. And when you looked at these two boxes, they looked quite different, but the insides of them was absolutely identical. I mean, it's said on it, it's exactly the same tea, but the one that had the retro packaging was more than twice as much. And the quality of the packaging was no different. It was still just a cardboard box. You're going to take the tea bags out and then you're going to throw it away. But this mother was insistent that she wanted to spend more than twice as much in order to get that box. And the daughter was trying to convince her. And she couldn't have said anything to change her mind. It would have taken that mother some moment of deep insight or completely changing her world philosophy to want to get the standard brand rather than pay more than twice as much just to get some different pattern printed on the box. And that's on something as simple as just buying tea bags. So when it comes to the way that we turn up into work every day and are engaging with our colleagues and engaging with the processes that we have to interact with, changing mindset isn't something that we can do just by sending people on a workshop and saying, come on, we should be thinking a little bit more innovatively about stuff. Let's put a scrum group together and exercise some kind of brainstorm to see what we can do differently. It's something that's deeper than that, something that needs to happen over a longer period and through those moments of insight. Of course, I think that coaching is a great solution to that. So let me explain why. When we send people on to learning programs, and again, I don't think there's any of this is going to be particularly new, we know that information that's taken in on those programs is lost very quickly. 88% of employees don't apply new skills that are learned on programs to their jobs. That is a huge majority. Almost 9 in 10 people, they go on a training program and they'll pick up some, and then 90% of it they lose. It's too much, right? 75% of learners don't believe that training measurably improves performance. And you don't need me to tell you that when we turn up on a training program, we don't believe it's going to help us, then that's not a great position for us to be in anyway. But that's some research that McKinsey did about 10 years ago. And this one on the right is a big one. 75% of content is forgotten if not implemented within 6 days. I don't know how many people have been in a situation where there's some new systems, a new finance system or something that's been introduced, and you get given all of this training, and then the system gets implemented 2 weeks later. Well, we haven't even got the chance to implement these skills. And this research is not new. Look at the data on that. Ebbinghaus did that in 1885. So 3/4 of what we learn is lost if we don't engage with it directly within a week. And when we're talking about something like curiosity, we need to be starting to do that regularly in order to engage, that muscle to build up the practice for us to be doing that and thinking in those new ways. And curiosity and innovation are these kind of areas where it isn't just something that happens on a daily basis. We need to put effort into making it happen. And it's weird because we need to prioritize it over things that are protecting the day-to-day of an organization. And that tends to be what organizations are designed to do. So why is it that people lose all of this information after going on a training program? We've given them content. These are intelligent people taking on this information. Why are they losing it? Well, the answer is actually relatively straightforward and predictable. Training is basically like pouring one particular brand of fertilizer over multiple different plants, some of which we know it's going to be helpful for, some of which we know it might not be helpful for, and others that we just don't know, because people have got different job roles, they've got different levels of experience, got different personalities, they've got different ways of engaging with learning that just make them more or less likely to take on certain information. And so when you generally do that across a large population, you're just guaranteeing that it's not going to be relevant for the majority. Professional coaching, however, can be an enabler. And I want to just pause to clarify exactly what we mean by professional coaching here. I apologize that I didn't come up with this slide. It's got a quote by me on it. So if you're interested in getting the book, my book, How to Thrive as a Coach in the Digital World, is where that second quote came from there. But that's the one I'm going to highlight, actually, because I think it's a helpful definition of coaching for me, that coaching is a conversation-led change tool that's confidential, non-directive, non-judgmental, and challenging. So we're not talking here about some kind of one-to-one consultant that can come and give advice and bring their own experience. It's somebody who is skilled and qualified and experienced within the world of coaching. They're great at active listening and asking good, challenging, open questions that are able to give us permission to change the way that we think. So when we're coming into a conversation where it is directive, so somebody's giving advice, and where it's judgmental, and so the person, that's not just negative, by the way, that the person is coming along and saying, what you're thinking about this is wrong, and what you're thinking about this is right. In non-judgmental approach, then you don't judge either way. You simply hold that space for the person to be able to state what they think and then question it. If I come along and say, I vote left wing, and somebody says, oh, that's a great idea, or somebody else says, that's not a good idea, you should vote right wing, and here's all of the reasons, then it doesn't really matter. The first person simply confirmed, and the second person is just going to start an argument, which is going to make me dig my heels in. Whereas when the person goes, oh, you vote left wing, that's interesting. Why don't you just explore in front of me why you think that and why it might be wrong? Suddenly I've got permission to change my mind. And so when it comes to sparking something like curiosity, simply by sitting somebody in a room for an hour and just asking them the question, what could you do in order to become more curious every day? Suddenly, that default generic approach to the training is personalized deeply for them. They're not maybe led by some content. It's possible to do that alongside coaching, but actually what they're doing in this kind of space is they're thinking about it in a reflective way, and it's about their own situation. And so it's deeply relevant, it's personalized, and it is exactly what they need in order to start sparking new ways of thinking in themselves. So the question really is, what's the difference between gaining 100 hours experience of doing something or gaining 50 hours experience and actively reflecting on it for 50 hours? So it's possible to sit in loads of brainstorms and loads of project groups and loads of innovation committees to come up with new ideas and do that again and again and again. And it's likely that we're going to end up with very similar outcomes every single time, unless the personnel changes. But to do that for half the amount of time and then spend half the amount of time actively reflecting on what we've been doing and whether there could be different and better ways of doing it, that's the way to unlock that curiosity. Because Once you're thinking about it, you're actually building on the experience in a positive, productive way. It isn't just saying, I've hit my 1,000 hours and so I'm an expert. It's saying I've done a certain level of experience and I've actively reflected on it. And so now I know why it worked well in those situations and didn't work well in these. And I've got a list of ideas of how I could try things differently in the future. That's powerful. And it's something that we want to equip our people to do. Here's some data points around the benefits of coaching, what difference it makes. This is from data that CoachHub pulled together based on our pool of coachees from around the world. 81% of participants in coaching agree they've gained useful competencies, competencies that are useful for their profession. And 91% of participants in coaching increased their self-reflection, awareness, and sense of purpose. When you're increasing in a sense of self-reflection and awareness and a sense of purpose, curiosity is something that you don't need to convince people to have, and you don't need to give them lots of tools to be able to help them to unlock it. Just do it naturally. And this is a lot more sustainable than any kind of procedure where we're just trying to convince people to do things and then people will try to comply. The question really then is, how are you able to scale that? Because coaching is a one-to-one conversation. You can do it in groups, but it's very, very challenging. You can do it in teams, and that's even more challenging. One-to-one is by far the most effective and simple way of rolling out coaching. But when it comes to trusting a coach to come along and have a good conversation with a coachee, it's very difficult to do that at scale, because the way it tends to happen is somebody's had a good coach in their past, and so they recommend that coach to somebody that they know would benefit from coaching. And inspiring curiosity is a great opportunity for people to engage in coaching. And so you might end up with a small number of trusted coaches on the books of an organization who then come in and do things on an exceptions only basis to help an individual deal with a particular situation, or maybe as part of some kind of promotion round or something like that. Whereas if we're wanting to spark curiosity in our people, what we really should be thinking about is, how are we able to get coaching, professional coaching, accessible by as many people as possible, across as many grades as possible, across the entire organization? That's the way. Then we're able to change mindset, we're able to change culture. And then, we're talking about that left and right hand side of the organization before. As long as we've got those good policies and procedures, then having that mindset that sits alongside it, that's the way that we're going to be able to unlock curiosity in a more sustainable way at scale. Just check what time we've got left. We've got a bit, that's okay. The way that this works is at an individual level and at a team and an organization. I'm not going to go through all of these bullet points. You can read them yourself, and I'm sure we can get these slides afterwards anyway. But we're talking here about one-to-one coaching. What one-to-one coaching equips an individual with is an opportunity and an ability for them to lead themselves better, because they increase in self-awareness, and so then they come up with solutions for themselves, and also lead those around them just simply by the way that they're behaving on a day-to-day basis. And so some of that is around the way that maybe they just switch on their email in the morning and know how to deal with that, so that rather than being a distraction, email is simply a tool that they use to make them more effective. Or it might be just something about their ability to switch off in between two meetings from their busyness to be able to start thinking and come up with maybe a new idea that's going to transform the future of the business. That same thing happens at a team level. When you've got a number of individuals across a team who are all receiving coaching, and they've all had those opportunities to reflect outside that day-to-day busyness, when they're working together, then they're increasing in a collective sense of awareness, so that when they come up to a team meeting and somebody notices something, suddenly there's a shared sense of permission to be able to say, can we just stop on the agenda and can we reflect on that for a moment? Something I've been working with my coach on. And suddenly everybody goes, oh, that's interesting. You got a coach as well. Yeah, let's do this together. And when teams are operating well, organizations are operating well. And of course, it's more than that. It can work across an entire organization, particularly when you're picking out those key individuals that have got influence across the whole of an organization. When they're receiving coaching, it can have a ripple effect. They're not just affecting the way that they turn up to work on a day-to-day basis. That's having an effect on those that are working directly with them, their direct reports, their peers, those that they're reporting to, because there's an increased level of trust and empowerment typically when people are receiving coaching. And so the entire organization benefits. And once the culture is in, then when new people come in, then they start to get affected by the behaviors that they observe around them. And so even though they haven't necessarily had the benefit over time themselves, they can come in and they'll start to adopt the behaviors that are expected of them within this organization. Now, of course, my message all around this is saying coaching is brilliant, and I'm here from CoachHub. And one of the benefits that CoachHub can bring is because we're operating a platform that comes around the world, and we have a bank of coaches that are already accredited. They've already gone through our onboarding, which is rigorous. They've already got access to our CPD and coaching supervision. We can guarantee a certain level of quality. That's difficult to do when we're doing it on an individual basis. And we also have the added benefit of being able to get insights into what's happening within those coaching conversations. It's really important to be maintaining confidentiality in coaching. There are some coaching providers, small and big, I'm not talking down on anyone here, but I'm just observing it. There are some coaching providers that might, in order to increase the value of what they're doing, take some messages out of the different conversations and try to communicate those in a way that is, that's pseudonymized to a certain level. So we're able to say, people are having a sense of this in their coaching conversations. And while that might feel like it's a way to kind of bypass the confidentiality and get some insights anyway, actually just some cold, hard data that's looking at what people are doing can bring a level of confidence into what's happening. Some of that is just to reduce administrative burden. Actually, bringing on coaches and overseeing what's happening on a day-to-day basis is a challenge. And so if you can do that all from one dashboard, it takes one person's full-time job and turns it into a once a month check a dashboard for half an hour. And believe me, I've been talking about coaching for a long time. This is a big challenge that it's good to overcome in using data and technology as a way to do that. We can see into organizational insights, and something that we can offer through CoachHub is that there is an academy built into the platform where coachees are able to access little videos and exercises and articles that might be relevant to what they're looking at in their coaching. So once they've finished a coaching session, they might think, actually, I've been thinking a lot about time management. I'm going to read an exercise around time management. Maybe my coach has recommended it. And what then we're able to do is extract out what are those themes that are coming from those activities that people are looking for. And so that comes up with some predefined tags. You're able to get some insights into, isn't it interesting that a lot of people in our organization are talking about stress management, and that that's a way you can get that insight in no other way, really. And so there's some other insights you can get there. I think I'll pause. Great. Thank you so much for listening. It's been a real pleasure being here.
This podcast was brought to you by ERUPT at Annapurna, the #1 platform that case studies the organisations that not only disrupt, but those that erupt. Please visit our new GO ERUPT website for more content and log in to watch the full episodes from the conference. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Make sure to watch out for the next.